Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today, Your Passport to IGOs, How an LLM in Health Law Opens Doors Worldwide. We're just going to wait for folks to join, and then we'll get started with our panel discussion. Great. So welcome everyone to our LLM informational webinar hosted by Georgetown University Law Center's LLM in Health Law programs. Today, I'm excited to be joined by some of our amazing alumni who work in different organizations, international organizations focused on health policy, research, and advocacy. And they're going to share a little bit with us their experiences, not only with the Health Law LLM program, but in building formidable careers in international organizations. How did they position themselves? Why did they choose Georgetown for their Health Law LLM program? And so I'm going to turn it over to them to introduce themselves. And we'll start with Juliana and then Berenice, and then we'll end with Juan Carlos. So over to you all, our wonderful panelists.
Hello, my name is Juliana Nantaba. I'm Ugandan, and currently working as the head of impact and strategy at Afya and Ahaki, short for Ahaki Institute, based in Kampala.
Hi everyone, my name is Berenice. I'm from Argentina and I working currently as technical officer at the Panamerican Health Organization, that is the agency of the World Health Organization in the Americas, in Washington, D.C.
Hello, everyone. I am Juan Carlos Orjuella from Bogota, Colombia, currently based in Panama, Central America, working for the Clinton Health Access Initiative, short for SHI, or SHI as the short-term part of the football name. I'm working as senior associate at the vaccines market team. Welcome, everyone. And thank you, Sarah, for inviting us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having you on, for you guys coming on. Oh, early morning. All right. So maybe we'll start with you, Berenice. I feel like your journey at Georgetown was really impactful. You were selected as a Belen Rios Scholar, and then, going from there, you've landed in this particular role that you have at PAHO, which is really quite an amazing achievement. Can you talk a little bit about sort of your thinking coming into the LLM, and then also how you utilize that time to position yourself to where you are today?
Of course, thanks, Sarah. And one thing today will be Belen Rio's birthday. So I think that's something to say because I am one of her scholarship. I think that I have been working in Argentina in non-communicable diseases for like almost 8 years, a non-government organization. And when I was thinking in main an LLM, I think that Johnstown University and the LL.M in National and Global Health Law always was the choice at some point because when you are working in that world, you know that this is the best LLM and this is the best place to be if you want to work in global health. So I think that the choice was like made in some point. I was thinking in other options, but maybe more in general human rights. And I think that if you are interested also in the combination of human rights and health and global health, transcends always your choice. I think that also choosing the LLM was because there's a lot of people that work in global health law that are working not only on the NIL, but also that have classes and courses, and also because Washington, D.C. is like the center of the world. So even when you come here, you can go to different events from different organizations, from reproductive rights to non-communicable diseases to migration. So I think that also is something that you need to take into account when you are choosing your LLM. And also about the LLM, I think that it's amazing, and it's amazing to know a lot of people and work with a lot of people that they're from different parts of the world and they have different vision of global health law. So I think that's one of the things that I will really think when I was choosing my LLM.
So a truly global experience and being
Yeah.
with folks from all over the world. That's really amazing. Juliana, you came all the way from Uganda to study in Washington, D.C. What motivated you? And tell us a little bit about the work that you do now at Ahaki and how it's connected to your study.
Yeah, for sure. So I came to the LLM after working 5 years at a national organization in Uganda that was pioneering the justiciability of the right to health. And during that time, I had gotten into that role and learned everything on the job because in Uganda, the undergrad degree or your LLB or your, I think it's a JD in the US does not teach you anything about health law. So for those 5 years, I was just figuring out things, interacting with mostly public health professionals in the field, and as lawyers at that organization really struggled. But at the same time, we had a project that had European advising the European Commission on the post 2015 development agenda. And it's on that program that I found Professor Gostin was working on it. It was really a global project. Professor Gostin was working on it. Professor Gorick Olms also used to teach a course at Georgetown. And they started to tell me about the LLM. And it made so much sense because when I come to the LLM, I was kind of looking for a structured way or structured framework to think about or to think through these fragmented things I had been doing. And so it was like a natural thing to do after 5 years, and it did make a lot of sense. Right now, the best thing about the LLM is that it will give you perspective on different things. And this links to what I'm doing right now at Afia and Ahaki. In the impact and strategy team, we do provide, I provide strategic oversight for our Africa Reproductive Justice Litigation Fund, and that's supporting around 8 countries in the region. And I lead on the litigation or expanding the legal framework or access to reproductive health services for specifically Uganda. But the critical thinking, the problem solving, the analytical thinking, all that you build from the LLM, like I even wanted to say that there was this problem-based exploration course. I don't know if it's still there. Yeah, like to help you really think through things as you get into management or senior management roles is something that I think the LLM prepared me for. And also, as a result of the current environment, I was asked to design a course on resource mobilization for sexual reproductive health and rights. So that's a course I'm actually teaching people on the African continent that have signed up. I have a class of about 44 students. And really, I have designed that to use like examples I learned from the LLM, comparative analysis from different regions. I could talk a whole lot about what I do now, but I'll stop there. Thank you.
That's amazing. And I think just sort of what you said about being positioned for senior leadership is, I think, something super important that you come out of there confident and prepared. And so, Juan Carlos, you are senior at Chai. And, I know that for you, your journey from Colombia, you were already very much in health law, but there's like a pivot from where you were in private practice now into the IGO sector. Can you talk a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah. my journey is a bit different. I start at a private law firm working in the life science practice there, representing clients from the pharmaceutical and food industry. I applied for the master's because I wanted to change and I wanted to see, when I started, that journey, I wanted to see where should I, try to focus my career and which is the best place to do it. That's, when I identify and found the LL.M, Georgetown, National and Global Health Law, LL.M. And, when I saw that possibility actually from a colleague that I joined and had the same LL.M, I was like, I think this is the place. And I was definitely not wrong. What I gained during that LL.M and how it helped me to, taught many of the skills that were needed, that are needed in this type of roles it's something incredible. I have to say that, even though I'm in a different position right now, where I'm not actually practicing, I'm doing different work. I'm in the global health space, but I'm from a different position. I think the LL.M also gives you the tools that are necessary to position yourself in those type of roles. So right now, as I was saying, I'm working as a senior associate at the vaccines macro team at CHAI, which is definitely not our legal role. I'm working more in the market shaping intervention type of situation in the global health space. So that means I think at least the project that I'm doing right now is analyzing the manufacturing footprint that exists in the Latin American region for vaccines, and which are the necessary steps to make them sustainable in the long term, so we can prevent in a future pandemic the many issues that the region faced when COVID-19 the COVID-19 crisis hit, and how that impacted especially the Latin American and the Caribbean region. So, having some of the knowledge that you acquired during the LL.M. So I had a lot of conversations and discussions during, around this specific topic, pandemic preparedness, and we were, right on time to discuss the pandemic preparedness treaty during our national and global health law course. So it felt like quite, recent, and everything was like getting ready for that treatment, and we were there, like we were learning, by the people that were helping shape that treaty. So, Professor Gustin was there, you were there. So we know that we were quite prepared to face, what's going to happen next. And I felt like that really helped me to position myself to this specific role. But it's a different set of skills, definitely. But something that you can leverage based on what you have learned as a lawyer, but also what you gain during this LL.M process.
Yeah, no, that's amazing to be able to learn some of what's unfolding in the world as you are in the classroom, and also to be able to learn from the folks that are doing that work. Um, for you outside of the classroom, one of the things we do like to emphasize is also learning and building connections outside of the classroom. I'm going to throw it open to you guys and just from anyone who wants to share what was your experience outside the classroom, whether it was mentorship, relationships that you built, and how did those support your journey into becoming the professional you are today?
Can I
Okay.
go? Okay, now, Berenice, you go.
I can say, I think that's something that was for me very surprising. That was like everyone knows Johnstown and LLM. For instance, when I was thinking in what to do next of the LLM, I decided to go and connect with different people from civil society organizations, people from academia, other academia, and also went to the Panamerican organization. And something that was for me surprising, well, it's not very surprising, but for me was surprising at that moment, that was everyone knows the O'Neill Institute and everyone knows, and even maybe something that you don't know for me was new, that the O'Neill Institute is a collaborating center for the World Health Organization. That means that also is a collaborating center for the Pan American Health Organization. So that opens a lot of doors, because they know the LLM, they know maybe professor because they work in different projects. So I think that's something that you need also to take into account that something that will help you with connections with people. I think that is something amazing. And I think something that I will recommend is not to be afraid or ashamed to for ask for a coffee, because well, probably Juan Carlos has the same sensation, but it's not something that we made in Latin America, like to ask people for a coffee. Why? Why are you asking? It's weird. But here's what they expected to do, and I will definitely recommend you to take that into account, because it's something that will, like, take you, I don't know if a lot of time, but time, like making like the map of people, like mapping the people that you want to know, people map the organization that maybe you want to work, to check. I think that for that is something important. Like, I will like that someone give me this advice before the LLM, that even when I will probably choose that if you want to make a course because you are very interested in a course, make it, but also take into account the professor that they are giving the classes. Because if I don't know, if your goal is working in the American Commission of Human Rights, well, maybe you need to map the professor that have been working with them, because it's something that is true that you are working with them, and even because here the classes, I think that except that the global health law that is the mandatory, and we are like 25 people, but the other classes maybe you are 10 person. So it's a big opportunity to know also the professor and to make network. So I think that definitely will be an advice that I will give, like try to map and to check who is going to do the course. And I think that's also very important. Like, and also like trying to go to a different like event that are not only from the NIL. I would recommend going to everyone, because even if there's something of private law that you are not interested in, you are knowing, I don't know, maybe a different like part of the global health that you never thought about that. So I think that that's also advice. And also to check, like to check if the, I don't know, if you're from Latin America, the Inter-American Commission is having a session of Guatemala. Okay, you can go and know people from the Inter-American Commission, from other parts. So I think that also is a recommendation.
I'm going to start with something that is like just like daily life or living, but like can really make your life so much easier. So I spent 5 years at Open Society Foundations, where my role had a lot of travel, Europe, Africa, North America. And there's something calming about having work travel to a country you've never been to, but have a Georgetown classmate that you can actually say, like, look, I'm coming. Like, do you know about this hotel? Like, what is an easy way to get around? Because sometimes the job will take you places, but it's not going to have like people go along with you. So for me, the first thing, like outside of class, is being able to have, like, I don't know, Juan, Berenice, somewhere where I'm going to Colombia, and I'm like, hey, there's this thing. Am I okay? It's you like I felt like it gave me a certain peace of mind in arriving at places where I had never been, but was expected to work, was expected to do several things, and that is even with classmates that were in the global health law class or even beyond. Also, something that I don't think that at least from East Africa, that it doesn't prepare you for is like networking. And I feel like the networking events that we had at Georgetown became so much like useful for me when I started to like interact with folks outside of my own continent, outside of my own region. Like sometimes you struggle with things like, what do I say? How do I say it? And also, like, I have to talk about the fact that when English is not your first language, that's also another thing that comes to mind as you navigate these spaces. So for me, having those networking events, or even people to practice with about how you talk about your work, how you talk about your ambitions. I think it was really good for me. And maybe the last thing I'll say is that for several times my classmates have acted as references, They've helped me write recommendation letters because of those group projects we've worked with. They have an interaction with you. The professors at Georgetown, I think you all know that if you are, well, I have had to work in places where I needed immigration and some kind of like support as a Black African living abroad. And I really tapped into the Georgetown networks, and people will only vouch for you if they actually have a relationship and have some kind of connection. So I think I wanted to share that. Yeah, thank you.
And just some final thoughts. I think Juliana and Berenice already touched pretty much on how this life, you're doing this LLM, but I guess one thing that definitely I will, repeat here is that you get to be involved in so many events, and the O'Neill Institute and Georgetown Law are constantly hosting several discussions around important topics around global health, and that are also applicable, to the regions of the people that are, going to attend this LLM. So I remember the O'Neill Institute was hosting this specific panel on all the judges for the region discussing about, health rights, and it was pretty interesting to be there, right in front of them, and get to learn from their experiences and the topics that they're discussing. That's definitely something that you can do when you're at Georgetown. So something that I will highlight there. And also, I think the O'Neill Institute, and I remember Professor Cerra constantly telling us, like, put yourselves out there, connect with people. And I feel like Georgetown really creates that environment. Professors are expecting for you to reach out, to talk with them. And this is something that, as Berenice was saying, you're not used to do that when you're in Latin America. And I'm constantly telling my friends, like, do that. Like, even though you're not in Georgetown, you definitely should try to do that. Like, it's okay to reach out to people, even in Colombia. Perhaps they're not used to that, but we definitely should create this culture that I saw within Georgetown to collaborate with other colleagues, talk with them, to think about how to reach out certain positions, or even with outside that, how you can learn from their experiences. And that's something that I feel Georgetown Law and the O'Neill Institute have helped create it for students. And it's definitely a good environment to be when you want to be in this specific space.
That's amazing. Everything that you guys have shared is everything that you need to work in an IGO to be culturally fluent. You need to be able to function effectively in environments and cultures that are different from your own, and to be quick to think on your feet, right? And so it's good to know that there was some sort of cultural barriers that were broken as well in terms of coming outside of your comfort zone. And, to our webinar attendees, that is a big part of coming to study in Georgetown, especially if you're international or you're from another state. It's exposing yourself to a different culture and how that can help to support your career journey. So maybe the final question to our participants before I go into the presentation on how to apply. And I encourage folks online, if you have any questions, please utilize the Q&A box. You can ask any of our panelists, or you can just post your question in there. What advice would you give to someone who wants to apply about what the most important part of their application is? And for you, what was the most important part? What were some tips that you would give someone now to position themselves to be a really, really strong applicant? And I'm going to start with you, Juliana, and then I'll let the others come in as they feel. Because your face looks ready.
That's a toughie. I mean, also, just to be completely honest, it's a competitive application process, but also that's what's great about it, because by the time you go through it, you've also built, you've also have some internal development that has happened. For me, it was really making sure that I'm aligning the work that I have done to the ambition that I have as a young lawyer trying to specialize in global health. And I felt like that coming out in my personal statement was a very important thing, because when I got to Georgetown, it was like I was learning from people. I was hearing people who had been in the field doing different things. And so I think there's a lot of value in showing what you've done so far, in as much as it aligns to your ambition as a global health professional, or as I like to call myself right now, global health junkie. So yeah.
Perhaps I can come in now. I think for me, part of this application process, I think what is important for you to tell in the personal statement is your story, but it needs to be cohesive. It needs to be connected to why you want to do this. And I think that in order to do that, you really need to understand what the LLM is about. You really need to, if I have to put it in a short term, it's you need to fall in love with the LLM. And what I mean by that is you need to understand who are the professors that are going to teach you, what are the classes that you want to take, even before you attend, like even if they got before you get admitted, like you need to understand and fall in love and feel like you want to be there. So you can show when you're applying why you want to be at Georgetown, why do you want to take this specific LLM. I think that's really important. And when you connect that to where you were before that, like I was in the practice law, I was doing, representing clients from the pharmaceutical industry, and I tried to connect, my past and how, even though I was in that side, I was working for health law for basically all my life. So connecting that to why do you see yourself within, this specific LLM, it's important, and that's it. But that's why it's important for you to fully understand and not give generic like responses on, yeah, this is amazing. It's more like, yeah, I feel like studying or learning from Professor Gustin. I know that he has this book on this specific topic, and having that possibility to learn from someone that basically created the space, it's going to give you an advantage compared to potentially other candidates. So that will be one specific tip to take into account.
Yes, I think I have two tips. One in the practical thing, that is very important to take time to do this, to take that time to have your application, and also to take time to ask for papers. For instance, my university took like 2 or 3 months to send my degree. So take time, because in some aspect you are saying, I have a lot of time, and no, you don't have a lot of time. And even if you want a scholarship, you need to make everything with a lot of time, because there's different times. So I will be like very aware of the deadlines. That is something that maybe you are not thinking in that, but please be aware, because if not, you are going to run, and it's going to be a disaster and very stressful. But the second thing that is very connecting what Juan Carlos had said is like something like try to make like a connection between your reference letter and your application. Like the person that is going to make the application is connecting with the person that is having a recommendation. Like there's a connection about your file, what are you interested in, why you want to be there, and also trying to explain why you are different, why you are. I mean, this is like, I don't know, but that's, I would say that I think that that means a connection with our culture, but in our culture, it's not very well see, like you say, I am special and I'm best than everyone, but you need to be the different, because I don't know, maybe 100, 200 people are going to apply for this LLM and they're going to choose 20. Why you are going to be chosen? So I think in that aspect, you need to also think about which is your goal, which is your goal in global health. Maybe you don't know exactly which is your goal in global health law, but you need to choose something. You need to choose like what are going to change you, maybe like you want to work in reproductive rights. Well, my goal is to change the laws and be abortion more accessible and reproductive rights in my country. Like that is something very specific, and the LLM is going to help me because of this, because I'm going to make this connection. I'm going to learn this. I'm going to learn about leadership also. So I think I'm going, that will be my recommendation also, like try to be specific also about your goal with this LLM and what you are going to achieve with this LLM.
Great. Thank you so much. That's amazing advice. So, first of all, prepare well in advance. Make sure that you talk about the connection. Are you looking at the courses to see what the courses are? Even though it's hard for some cultures, brag about yourself a little bit. Try and show why you are special. You should be the one to be picked so that you can stand out. And then, of course, make sure that if you have folks that are recommending you, that they also are then confirming exactly what you've said about yourself in your personal statement, right? They're not saying something completely off at a tangent, and that's different. Okay, so I'm going to go into just a general presentation of the mechanics of the whole LLM process and how you can apply. And again, I encourage you to post any questions that you have in the Q&A box. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Health Law LLM program. Some of what the panelists have already shared is going to come up, so I hope it's a good repetition for you guys so that you can also reaffirm some of the things that you've been hearing. So the O'Neill Institute is basically the home that you will have, one of the many centers and institutes at Georgetown Law. The O'Neill is focused specifically on health law, and many of our students who come for the Georgetown Law Health Law LLM program tend to work as research assistants with O'Neill or tend to connect with our experts and get that practical learning experience outside of the classroom. Or, of course, some of the experts at O'Neill are also professors, as you heard. So, what does O'Neill focus on? We have over 30 experts, researchers, and scholars that work on healthy food environments, tobacco control, NCDs, infectious diseases. We also do a lot of work directly in global health governance. So, for example, we've supported Lancet commissions focused on health. We have provided direct technical support to the World Health Organization for the pandemic agreement. And then, of course, we do also offer technical supports directly to governments in supporting their policy work. As you also heard mentioned, we are the only World Health Organization collaborating center for national and global health law in the world. That means, for example, then we do get to be involved with things like the pandemic agreement. We also support any technical support that the WHO needs within the area of policy, legal research around health law issues. About Georgetown itself, we're ranked among the top 14 law schools in the US, so you'd be getting top tier education by coming to our program. And specifically, our health law LLM programs are ranked number one among all of the world's health and medical law programs, LLM programs. And then, as you know, we have notable alumni and world-class scholars. Some of our alumni, as you see, have joined us today to share some of the amazing work that they are doing around the world. We have two main degree programs, the LLM in National and Global Health Law, and then the LLM in Global Health Law and Governance. One of the things that we also provide as a benefit to students enrolled in the program is the ability to study a certificate while you're doing your LLM. That may be helpful for you if you're trying to position yourself as an expert or someone with additional expertise for a particular career pathway you want to pursue. So our certificates are focused on US health law, food and drug law, international human rights law, and World Trade Organization studies. And then there's also some certificates around arbitration for those of you that want to be able to bring in that expertise to boost your health law credentials. The LLM in National and Global Health Law is fully within Washington, D.C. So students will spend a year, the whole academic year in D.C. In the spring semester, in addition to taking courses at Georgetown, you can also pursue an externship in the spring, which means that you find an organization within the DC area focused on health law where you can work and you earn 2 credits. Also, other ways in which you can participate within health law outside of the classroom. There's a Washington, D.C. health law community that's very vibrant, that is always hosting events, as other students, former students were telling you about. And then there's also a health law society, which is student-led. It comprises both JDs and LLMs. So for those that are looking for an experience that is both global and national in understanding and connecting and networking within the health law space, those opportunities are there for you. If you are a foreign trained attorney, you must complete 20 academic credits. Only 14 of those need to be health law specializations. Why is that important to note? You can tailor your degree of study to, of course, focus on health law as the main thread, but to be able to pull in other areas of interest that intersect with health law, whether it's AI, environmental law, arbitration, as I mentioned. You're able then to pick those different courses outside of the health law concentration and really tailor your expertise and tailor your study to better support your professional pathway post-graduation. Some of the health law courses that are available at Georgetown, we're always revamping the curriculum based on what's happening in the space of health law, based on cutting edge development. We want to make sure that if you come and study with us, the year that you come and study, whatever is topical, you get a good understanding and you're able to take those skills that you learn in the classroom right into your next job. So global health security and the law, public-private partnerships, international right to health, and then, of course, biotechnology and the law are some of the courses that you can take at Georgetown. In terms of externships, some students have externed at the World Bank, Food and Drug Law Institute, International Monetary Fund, and also Global Health Advocacy Incubator. And I also do want to point out that when you come and study at Georgetown Law, you're able to get a student membership at the Food and Drug Law Institute, which is, again, a very big professional convening of health law experts within the US. And that offers a lot of benefits in terms of access to networking events, but also access to conversations and topics that can help you with the courses that you are studying within Georgetown Law, because they do bring experts in the field to come and give special talks and presentations. For those that are interested as well, you are able to take the New York Bar with your LLM in national and global health law specifically, which is the one that you spend 1 year in Washington, D.C. I generally tend to encourage students to do some experience so that they can knock out some of those courses that they need for the bar prior to starting their LLM in national and global health law. Then you can finish off the rest of the courses throughout the academic year. If you're unable to take the summer experience, there is a way in which we can sit down and help you plan your academic pathway so that you meet the requirements for the LLM for the health law specialization, but also are able to get the number of credits that you need for the New York Bar and take those courses that are outside of health law concentration, such as Foundations of American Law or Professional Responsibility, which are important for you to take and qualify for the New York Bar. Now, moving on to the other LLM program, the second LLM that we offer is the LLM in Global Health Law and Governance. Now, this particular LLM is for someone who's interested, first of all, in trying to forge a career outside of the US, maybe thinking more globally to the WHO or more in policy, something that intersects with international relations or diplomacy. Then this is the right LLM for you. Students spend the full semester in Washington, D.C., and then they move to Geneva to pursue the rest of their studies in the spring at the Graduate Institute in Geneva. That was founded in 1927, is focused on international relations and political science. And Kofi Annan, the former UN Secretary General, is actually an alumni of the Graduate Institute. So it's you really having the best of top tier institutions, academic institutions in the respective fields for this particular course of study, our joint program with the Graduate Institute. You do 12 credits here in Georgetown in the fall with this particular LLM, and then you move to Geneva to do 39 credits. It is not that you do more in Geneva, it's simply that the weighting of the credits for the courses is different. One of the things that I think is also really wonderful about the Geneva program is the ability to do an internship as part of your course requirements for the LLM itself. Students have worked at the UN. I find this is particularly helpful for students that otherwise wouldn't have access to the UN due to geopolitical issues. as a student then, and as a part of your requirement for your LLM in global health law and governance, you're able to pursue an internship and get that UN experience that you ordinarily wouldn't have access to. Some of the courses that you can take when you are in Geneva at the Graduate Institute include seminars on World Trade Organization jurisprudence, global environmental governance, managing the global commons, and of course, treaty making. So if you're someone who maybe is looking to see if you can build a career in advising governments or presidents, or working at the cutting edge of policy that's translating global law, then this would be a good opportunity for you as well. So moving on, just to kind of give you a snapshot, there's many courses that are on offer through Georgetown Law's Health Law LLM programs. And just these are some of the specializations that you can walk away with, some of which prepare you also for jobs of the future, bioethics, health and technology, and some which prepare you for current tried and true health law issues such as reproductive health rights, food and drug law, health and human rights, and of course, healthcare law and policy. So, as you've seen from the alumni that we featured today, we have folks working all around the world and in different areas. So, including international global organizations, we also have alumni that tend to go into academia, that tend to go into law firms such as McDermott, Will and Emery or Sidley, Austin. Some go into pharmaceutical companies, Eli Lilly, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and then of course some are in civil society organizations at the forefront of important advocacy such as the Medical Patents Pool. One of the things we try to emphasize at Georgetown is not just that you are in the classroom doing the work and getting good grades, but also that there's a good work-life balance for you where you have that social connection to your peers and to the broader health law community. So some of the things that we do is every single year, the O'Neill Institute, which is the sort of your institutional home at Georgetown as you're studying health law, hosts a hike and brunch. This is where we invite also some alumni of the program that are still in the Washington, D.C. area and folks that are interested and connected to O'Neill to come and spend time with you in a very social and informal setting. So it's a low stakes, sort of comfortable place for you not only to connect, hike, eat good food, but also to connect with current students and build your network and be able to also practice those networking skills and connecting with other folks. And so generally, one of the things that I want to share to end this presentation is about what you need to apply. So applications are open now and are generally reviewed on a rolling basis. What you need is your application form, an application fee for those that attend webinars such as this one. That fee can be waived. And then, of course, your resume, your personal statement. And for those for whom you didn't study in English in your country, or English is not the official medium of instruction in your country, you'll need a TOEFL or an IELTS score. For those that are in countries where English is taught maybe from primary school all the way through to higher education, you can obtain a waiver for English language. You just have to make that request. And then, of course, your transcript, your registrar certification form. In addition, one of the things that you also will need to make sure you do is that you have a good recommendation letters, at least two of folks that understand and can attest your interest in health law, or if you're referring to someone who's worked with you in the field before, that can also attest to your work in the field. And we'll stop here just to see if there's any questions from our audience members, or if maybe our panelists, you guys want to add anything from the presentation just about your own experience in applying, and any other advice that you would give to our audience about applying and the experience itself.
I guess before, if there are not any other questions, I would just say that do it. Like in terms of don't feel like perhaps you don't have the necessary English level or you don't have necessarily the right qualifications. I feel like a lot of people feel afraid of not doing it because they might feel like, yeah, my English level is not 100%, and then you're not gonna be able to be there. And as you can see, I mean, English is definitely not 100%. When I started, I felt like there was no way that I'm gonna have the necessary level at the TOEFL in order to be able to apply. But if you study enough, if you know how to handle this specific exam, you can make it, and you're gonna have the necessary English level, because in the end you're gonna also be studying with people that are mostly not gonna be, the English is not gonna be their first language. So don't be afraid, to just try and do it, even though perhaps you're not gonna have the level right now, maybe in the next year, but just don't feel scared just because of that. I guess that's something that, at least it was my personal experience. I was so afraid about my English skills, but in the end, it ended to be okay. So definitely one advice to just don't give up about that possibility just because you don't feel like you have the English level.
Thank you for that. And actually, there's a question for you, Juan Carlos, Juliana, before you come in. It says, given your experience in pharmaceutical regulation, pricing, and compliance at Clinton Health Access Initiative, how did you strategically transition into high-value corporate health law work? And what specific skills or experience would you recommend for someone aiming to enter top-tier law firms, advising pharma and healthcare companies, and without a JD from a US institute? So basically, how did you get into chai when you don't have a JD?
Okay, so I think it's important to clarify that CHAI it's an organization that does not work within the United States ecosystem. They were actually outside of the states, supporting continents that require, support. So that includes mainly Africa, but they do also provide support for the Asian region and the Latin American region and specific initiatives and diseases. So that's something that I would highlight. Now, in terms of if you want to be at a top law firm in the States, I mean, that was something that I considered when I was thinking about my LLM. But definitely, if you want to make it, the first step is think about the New York bar. That's something that you just can't skip it if you want to be in that space, if you want to work in a top law firm in the States. So that's the first step. And then you have to do a lot of networking with the professors that you are going to meet within your LLM, and be really involved in the work that they're doing. So you probably need to, do a lot of work around, understanding these specific topics. If you are, for example, if you're in the drug regulation, then you need to, show that you understand the space. And after you get your LLM, perhaps you can pursue an internship within one of these law firms. So you can, start building your career. But I have to be, honest that it's going to require work, and that it should be involved, at least in my perspective, in my opinion, it should be, be engaged with these professors that are, in some cases, like the professor that gave us the class of food and drug law and drug and biologics, and they were part of the big names of law firms in the States. So I remember Latam Watkins, our two professors were from Latam Watkins, which is a top tier law firm in the States. And I had the opportunity to actually, after that, engage with them and have coffee chats with them, and they provide a lot of advice. But my goal when I was, doing my LLM was not going to a law firm in the States. So that's why I did not pursue that specific path. But it's of course an option, and that you need to think about the bar. It's definitely something that you have to consider if you want to start doing a career in a law firm in the States, is to be able to practice the law in the States. So that means that you need to take the bar.
Great. Thank you, Juan Carlos. Juliana, do you want to come in? Juliana?
I like the Juliana version. I was going to talk about what Juan said, though I experienced it in the reverse, that I wasn't worried about my English, but more like my interactions with the professors and whether I would have been able to understand the concepts. And because the people that I was what I was exposed to was quite different. And it's still after going through different organizations and see that I was able to appreciate that actually the Georgetown professors are familiar with the fact that I have a class that has foreign trained lawyers, and I feel like they figured out how to communicate different things in ways that reached out to the different student audience. But sometimes you're only able to acknowledge that after you expose yourself to folks who are not probably familiar with having several audiences. So I just wanted to share that nuance because Juan shared about how to think about your application and the language requirements.
Yeah, and I want to pick up on something that Juan said that I think is also important for both US trained and foreign trained attorneys that are thinking of coming to Georgetown and doing the health law concentration. A lot of adjuncts, I think we have over 600 adjuncts or close to 600 across the entire law school because Georgetown Law is a very big law school. And I'm including here the JD and the LL.M. These are folks that are working in top tier law firms, right? These are people that are teaching you, that are practicing. They're at Sidley, they're at Latham Watkins. Some of them are at the top of their game within the field of expertise that they're working on. Some of them are from the WHO, some of them are from PAHO, some of them are from, I know there's one particular organization that does a lot of funding of health law as well and work on health law research. So it's not just that you're going to be in the classroom getting the knowledge. It's that opportunity again to be known by name. It's that opportunity again to be able to say, Professor, can I have some office hours with you and speak with you? And then be able to even request an opportunity. Can I have an opportunity to come and extern in your organization or in your firm? And most of the faculty at Georgetown, all of them actually are there because they want to be, and also because they're invested in making time to also connect with students outside of the classroom. So I think this is a very important thing and a very important benefit that, you should take advantage of if you are studying at Georgetown. Okay, we'll see any more questions. I will also mention that scholarships are available. You have to make your request when you apply. The goal is to try and make sure that we make education accessible for those that are seeking to advance their career in health law. Okay, so we have 8 minutes left, and so maybe I'll open it up once more to our panelists for any final words of wisdom. And we'll start with you, Berenice, and then we'll go to Juliana, and we'll end with Juan Carlos.
Okay, no, I think that's something that it take a connection with English. It's like maybe the first time that you want to make a connection, and of course, it's different in the English because per you are going you now have classes. You have classes when you were a child, and it's different that the English level and the English how to I don't know have a conversation with a professor, have a conversation with a class, how networking is different. So maybe also I would recommend you to check first those professors that their mother language, their mother tongue is your mother tongue. So have the conversation. Maybe if you are from Latin American, Spanish is easier. Make the connection and also to check in an organization that you really like. For instance, if you are really in tobacco control, you can reach me out also in the Panamerican organization. I live here in Washington, D.C. But maybe in the campaign for tobacco free kids, there's a lot of Latin American people. There's a lot of people that have made the LL.M here. So you can reach out then first and then expand to other people. I think that also first because you're going to talk with a person that was in your position, like he came here to the United States, made an LL.M, not knowing anyone. And so I think that will be easier, and you are going to talk with a person that is have more empathy. That is something because I mean I don't say that people that are born here and rising and having the JD and LLM they don't have empathy, but it's different because it's a different pay, it is different level of expense, different levels of difficulty to be in the marketplace. So my recommendation will be also that first to be and also to gain like confidence, because it's complicated to make networking in a new city, in a new, there's a lot of things new, and then the first is like, wow, what I'm doing here. So I think that my recommendation will be also like make the mapping of people, but also start with something that you make more confident, and not with the most difficult things. That's also like you will have time, but if you start with the simple one, that don't make any sense, and you will gain confidence.
I think what I'll share is that, also from personal experience, to be patient with yourself, because sometimes you won't have all the answers you want to have at the same time. Like the place I was at in my first semester, when I felt like I was pushing myself to immediately know what I was supposed to do after my LLM, was such a huge pressure for me, because I was thinking about the fact that this was a huge opportunity. I was at Georgetown. I wanted to make use of all these things, all the resources, all the professors, all the events. And I think that it's important to really be patient with yourself and pace yourself through the semesters, because indeed clarity does come. I mean, at that point, I didn't know that the student careers support center was there. I didn't know that from having conversations with people, I would start to gain clarity. So yeah, really be patient with yourself, and just want to emphasize the Berenice's point on being confident. I still remember I used to ask a question that, what happens if I see this position and I'm qualified for it, but all it says that it requires 7 years of experience and I have 5. I remember Professor Gostin saying, go ahead and apply and demonstrate how your skills align with that role. And I kid you not, for one of the positions I got, that was the circumstance, that was the situation. So good luck, everyone, with your applications, and hopefully to see you at Georgetown.
Yeah, I guess I will give three specific advice to the people that are here. The first is when right now you're at the stage that you're thinking about applying. So my first advice is to reach out to people that are been there. You had this specific opportunity, but I'm open. I think Juliana and Berenice are also open to talk more about this. If you have any other questions, reach out, and that's how you can start networking. That's the first step. And you have it easy because you already know us, so you can reach out to us and start the process there. The second advice, when you get there, is enjoy yourself, enjoy the master. I know that, I try to focus a lot on the classes and do all the lectures and do everything, but you get overwhelmed really easily because there are a lot of things to do. You have to your classes, but you also have a lot of conferences, you have a lot of events, you have the Food and Drug Law Institute. They are hosting a lot of things every time. So there are a lot of things that you can do. Try to balance everything. And there's also, life, and you want to spend time with your friends and create new relationships. That's also important. So don't deny yourself of that option and go to your room and just study. There's time to do that, of course. At least that was my December. I have spent like basically 1 month doing papers. It was a lot. But apart from that, I try to find a balance. And then when it comes to pursuing a career, don't be flexible first. And don't think that because that specific role demands a specific career, you're not going to make it. In my specific position, Chai was asking for someone that has business experience, that has quantitative and qualitative experience. I remember applying, and they had this final line was saying, apply even if you don't feel like, even if you feel that you're not the specific role that we're finding, but you're passionate about this, which was something that I had. This specific role, it was something that I really would love to be there, and I applied. And then you take it from there. So don't deny yourself a lot of opportunities that might exist within the space, even though they don't feel like are the great fit. Of course, you need to be in the space where you want to be. So if you're passionate about something, do it even and apply even though you're not necessarily the 100% checking all the flag. It's okay to not be there because you have many skills that can be used to these specific roles. So that would be like my main advice is for this process, because you start and then comes to going back to the market.
That's amazing. Thank you to everyone for your advice and your guidance. And I will leave our audience with this one advice, piggybacking off what Juan Carlos shared. If you are even thinking about applying for the Health Law LLM, if you have a passion, even if you're thinking to yourself, well, maybe I'm not experienced enough, maybe I haven't done enough, just apply. Just apply, because you would be surprised that even the potential that you have can be further solidified, developed into something amazing at Georgetown Law. So thank you everyone for your time, and thank you, Berenice, Juliana, and Juan Carlos. It was wonderful having you guys sharing your stories. Thank you, everyone.